Seltzer Time, meatballs!
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Seltzer Time podcast. It's your boy Ricky, aka Dick Chuck, aka the man behind the can at Seltzer Time Official. Here is ours with my conversation accomplice. I forgot to say this part last week. The man with the hunch about Worcester, Travis.
What is cracking, Fizzle Fiends? Welcome back to another episode of the Seltzer Time podcast. And as always, we are so glad you're with us. Yeah, flawless intro, Ricky.
Hey.
We had to bring the listeners back. It's been a while since we flubbed the intro, so.
It's true. Well, I listened last week. I did the intro part of it thing, but I didn't say the man with the hunch about Worcester. And I didn't realize it until I listened back after we had released the episode. I was listening to something else that morning, and then I think the next thing that played was ours. And usually I'll listen to it after I go through all the other podcasts I had, but I think I was at the store. So I didn't have my phone next to me, and that podcast ended, and went into the next one, which happened to be ours. And I was like, oh, cool, whatever. I'll listen to some of this, and then there was another one I wanted to listen to from something else. But I got to that part, and I'm like, I didn't even say I missed the part of my intro. What the fuck?
We opened a beer instead of a seltzer, and it threw us all off.
It happens.
Well, if you haven't listened to that episode yet, cool kids, that one was all about our summer jams, songs of the summer. We got a lot of great feedback.
It was a lot of feedback on that.
Yeah. Thanks for everybody that went and listened to the playlist. It's still live, and we're still adding to it. We put up a couple more songs this week.
Yeah, yesterday I was very much into a unwritten law zone, and every single time, almost not every song, but most songs that I heard from them yesterday, I was like, fuck, I really dropped the ball by not putting any unwritten law in my playlist. But
Rockwell hit me up telling me that I messed up not going with the first Westbound Train album, which I should go back and rediscover. So I guess there's 4 albums worth of music out there that people can go find. And then a cool story of somebody that didn't even know who they were, that they were on a mixtape that they had.
Yeah, that was on our YouTube, I think, that comment.
Yeah, so that was super cool. So thanks to everybody for that.
Good stuff.
This week on the show, we have Kazs, the creator of Wortown Rising, a documentary all about the hip-hop scene here in Worcester from the 70s, 80s, and to now. But before we get there, you know what we have to do. Hey, Ricky, how was your week?
What up? My week was pretty solid, I think. Just packing a lot and getting that situated. Trying to think of what else is going, what I did. That's pretty much it. My week's kind of first of all, they move really fast, which is a weird thing. I keep wanting to go skate, and I look at my skates in my car every day, and then I don't do it because it's just been too hot.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bummer.
That's especially warm.
Yeah. Other than that, man, it was a good week. Shout out Pastamani. I had dinner from Pastamani last night. It's insane how good that dude is at making food.
That fresh pasta is something. Oh God, it's
so good. Yeah, so Naomi and I each got an entree, and then we split 2 appetizers. But yeah, it was just, everything's so good. I wish I wanted to stay there and eat, but neither one of us are still super on board with eating inside anywhere. So got takeout. It was absolutely delicious. Yeah, man, that's pretty much oh, dude, shout out Mandy from Pig Out. I got one of the Pop-Tarts on Saturday. Oh my God, they're so good. I got the brown sugar cinnamon one or whatever.
Just in case anybody doesn't know what you're talking about, Mandy, who was on the show, you can now find her wares available every weekend at the shirt that Ricky's wearing, New Tradition.
Oh yeah, I am rocking a New Tradition shirt. Heartland Barber hat, New Tradition shirt.
Branded.
Fanboy launch, Ricky. Wow.
Go down, get yourself some of the best coffee in Worcester. Now some of the best treats in Worcester.
Yeah.
Have
How
yourself.
was your week?
My week was good, man.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm just really excited.
You're totally cool. Week out in Harwich was great. I came home Wednesday night, so it was cool. We went out to Chapin Beach out in Dennisport or Dennis or whatever. It super, super interesting. Unlike all the other beaches, and when the tide goes out, you could stay. I think we were probably like 30 to 50 yards from anybody else. Like there's so much beach that happens when the tide goes out. It was a 6-minute walk from where we parked out to the water line, like a direct as the crow flies walk. It was awesome. It reminded me a lot of like the Outer Banks in North Carolina.
Okay.
If anybody's been down there. And then one of the cool things that happened is, so Sarah's cousin Noah was out there, and Noah was our ring bearer for our wedding. So Sarah and I got to drive go-karts. The three of us, it was the first time Noah was old enough and tall enough to drive his own go-kart. So the three of us went around and took some go-karts. I mean, they top out at maybe 20 miles an hour. So you don't need to wear a helmet.
Don't you worry. When I was a little kid, we used to go to the Cape every single summer, and my favorite thing to do is to go to the go-karts. It's not the go-kart place that's like next to the A&W restaurant, is it? It's that same one?
It's real close to A&W.
Yeah, A&W is like right up the street, and there was is there still a trampoline park across from A&W?
Yes.
Yeah, yo, that's the one I used to go to when I was a little kid.
That's awesome. So that was the one we did.
Oh my god, that's so sick. I grew up going to Chatham. Like my aunt and like my great grandma and my like grandma's brothers, which would be my great uncles. Yeah. Excuse me. They all lived in Chatham. So like every summer I'd go down there. Not every week, but a couple of times a month for 3 months.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So dope.
So it was cool. It was nice. We could stay far enough away from other people. The guys at the go-karts were spraying it down in between everybody's ride. Like,
oh, that's cool.
It was still good that people were taking it seriously.
Yeah.
So yeah, and they came back, just kind of like catching up on the stuff I missed out on. We have a sweet new mural here in the city. That was very cool. Congratulations to all the volunteers and all the people that worked together to put that.
Yeah, that was super rad. I didn't get down there on Wednesday when it was like taking shape. I got down there Thursday morning. It was awesome. I'm like really impressed with. I mean, just having a Black Lives Matter mural in general is something that we 100%. Every city should have one, but it was just really cool. Not that like the yellow letters by themselves aren't impactful, but I just really loved the fact that like each letter had a different artist that was able to put their own, mix on the whole movement. I thought it was super, super, super rad. Everything came out awesome. Is it the E? So 2 of them are my favorites. The R, which was like is it the R? Yeah, so the R is like Colin Kaepernick and a couple of little like signs and stuff. And then I think it's the E maybe. One of them is Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On" record with like with the arm coming out and the needle. Like it was just that I love those. Those 2 are my favorite ones. I'm a big fan.
As a type nerd, I was a big fan of the "I Can't Breathe" on the eye. Like I just thought the placement of that was spectacular. Like really dead nuts. That's where it should be. I'm with you. I love the personality that is behind our new street mural. I don't love, so like Powwow Worcester shared it. I don't love a lot of the comments that we got from disgruntled people from the community. It was going to happen.
Oh yeah. I mean, no matter what, the thing to remember is like, even though we live in a relatively like progressive city, there's garbage people everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
It would be super. It actually, to me, it would have been really awkward if nothing was said. You know what I mean? Like if the mural went up and happened, and for some odd reason nothing was said about it, that would be very strange to me.
That would be a wonderful world to live in.
It would be a great world to live in, and I really hope that my kids get to grow up in that world.
No, I'm with
But
you. No, I mean, so we had heard about this kind of before it happened, and Ricky and I had a conversation about it, and it was always my thing. Like, we are going to see everything that comes out, and like every other BLM mural that has been put up has seen some type of reaction. So I'm glad that we are being protective of our mural, but I'm also glad accounts like Defund WPD have come out congratulating him, recognizing the accomplishment, but also making sure that we don't lose focus on the stuff that also matters. Like, yeah, it's cool we have paint on the street, but let's also do all this other shit that we said we were going to do.
Oh, that's the most important thing. Like, yeah, the mural is awesome. It's dope. It's it's a great photo op, and it was an amazing thing to watch come to life. But like, let's make sure like some shit actually happens. Like,
right.
That's the whole entire point of this. It's not just, be loud, get a mural, and we'll move on with ourselves. So.
Right. We haven't fixed anything yet. We just have a prettier street.
Nope. So, see what happens.
Other cool stuff happened around the city. Just want to mention real quick that the Compton Skate Park video flyover has come out, where they're showing kind of like what that skate park can look like. The developer put it out. Super cool. Looks like they had a great conversation with the local skaters to have a lot of like, I know the kids around here were looking for something like intermediate to expert level. They didn't want just another beginner skate park. So it seems like the developers that they're working with really heard them and put in some cool stuff. There's a heart-shaped manual pad right at the beginning of the park that looks pretty freaking cool. That's a nice touch.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
But if anybody wants to go see it, go to cromptonskatepark.com. They can see the video, and you can respond to the survey. They're looking for feedback. And then lastly, Ricky, did you hear the cool thing about the Worcester Library?
No.
So it sounds like the Worcester Library has been putting into motion going for a fare-free model. So instead of late fees, there won't be anything. And there's been studies that suggest that fear of fees is a prevention or preventative measure from people having access to that education or that knowledge. So removing those fees now opens up the access to the library to literally anybody. And hopefully we get some books into some kids' hands that could really use them.
That's really cool. How does that work though, in terms of like getting stuff back?
That's the part that I don't fully understand.
Okay.
Nowadays we have, like, if you borrowed something from the library, you scan your own code, you scan a card. I imagine that if you have one book that goes like whatever deviant, whatever the term is, if it's late, you probably won't be able to pull out another book using your card.
Okay. That's a good idea.
It's my assumption. I don't really know.
Yeah.
It's something they're going to have to solve, but it doesn't sound insolvable.
Yeah. Sweet.
So I was pumped to see that. All right.
Cool.
Well,
shout out Dead Horse. They did the Sinjay chicken wings again. So I was lucky enough to have Dead Horse for lunch Friday and Saturday.
So envious. So envious.
Friday was like a Worcesters team meeting. And then Saturday, just Mike P and I wanted some chicken. So we did.
I haven't seen Mike P in forever.
He's the best.
All right. I need to get me some Jing chicken. That's
do it.
Something's going to happen. Hopefully they do it again this weekend.
That'd be nice. Be nice.
All right. Well, without much further ado, let's kick it over to ourselves.
Cool.
So this week on the show, we have Kazs, creator of Wortown Rising, a documentary all about the hip-hop scene here in Worcester, Massachusetts. Kazs, man, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Good to be.
Yeah. So off the top, I mean, we're kind of curious, like, we talked about before the show, you're Worcester born and raised, and you've been here in the hip hop scene throughout the entire time. Like,
basically, yeah. So I came up in Worcester. I was just kind of a musical kid, creative, and I got into hip hop pretty early on. Maybe I was 12, started doing a b-boy thing.
Okay.
And at that same time, I think I wasn't there at the very, very beginning. I think things were forming out, Grape Valley Way and stuff like that. And I picked up on the b-boy thing and then got into the music more and started DJing, beatbox, MC, and all that stuff. You kind of did everything back then. So, everything just kind of grew as time went on.
Cool. Wow. What part of the city did you grow up in?
So I'm from the west side of the city. So I was probably the only kid on June Street breakdancing in front of the post office. So
That's awesome.
It was just an interesting time. It's totally different from what hip hop is like now.
Yeah.
What you see mainstream, I should say. Mm-hmm.
For sure. What year did you, if you can remember, what year did you get into hip hop?
So I'm saying maybe 82, 83, I got into breakdancing. And from there, everything just fell into place.
Right there at the cusp of it.
Yep.
Right place, right time. See, that's awesome. So you're talking like 82, 83, breaking out the cardboard, doing it on the sidewalk, just doing it any place you really wanted to?
It's like I have a article a couple pictures from the newspaper when I was breakdancing, like literally on June Street in front of the post office. So
that's awesome.
Kind of an anomaly. And then at that time, I think it was like 83, 84, there was a contest at Charlotte Klein Dance Center in Tatnick Square. And I had been sick like the entire, 2 weeks I was out of school, and I wanted to go to this thing because it was supposed to be a breakdancing contest. And a bunch of my friends we went, and they I guess it was kind of covert, like they wanted breakdancers to dance on the stage with their dancers. And we got picked out of a crowd, maybe 6 or 7 of us, and we got to kind of tour around New England and do shows and teach classes. So it's like
that's awesome.
15 years old, and I'm teaching a breakdance class, and so I thought that was it. Yeah,
that's so cool.
Yeah. So from there, just about everyone I met or every connection I've had in my life kind of came from that. All the music people I met through that.
That's wild, man.
Yeah.
So through that whole time, were you collecting footage?
Probably just my own stuff. Pretty early on, I started recording. I was probably 13, 14. I started recording. I had a little home stereo unit that had a double cassette player and a turntable, and it could take a mic line in. So within that thing, I started making pause tapes and actually multi-tracking. So I would take the microphone or I'd record a beat, get a beat on the tape. Sometimes I'd just go to the music store and we would plug our boombox into the drum machine and record beats all day, and then bring it home. And then I could dub, so I'd rap on top of that, and then I would run the mic into one of the speakers and scratch into that. So it was like many generations of cassette, but you get, an idea of what your song would sound like. So,
oh, you got that super lo-fi muddy. That shit is, man, that has a special place in my heart. That lo-fi sound of super muddy, because that, it took a dude sitting in his room sweating his dick off putting this shit together. That shit is hip hop, man. That's cool.
Yeah, and it was just so, it was, it was all kind of the desire to be good at hip hop and want to know how to do this stuff, because New York was, already 5 to almost 10 years deep in that stuff by then. So for us, we were still kind of studying and trying to play catch up to all that.
Yeah. So who were you listening to at the time? Who was inspiring you to make your own music?
So I liked rap music. When I first heard rap music, I didn't think that it was some of the rapping was kind of silly. I liked the early Grandmaster Flash and stuff like that, but there was guys like Jimmy Spicer. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but it got a little silly. So I was into more Africa Bambaataa.
Yes.
Almost the electro side of it. In drum machines, I was fascinated with that stuff. then, from there, Run DMC, Fat Boys, all that stuff, the whole Def Jam era started happening, and it just revolutionized hip hop. So that, the Def Jam stuff and early Run DMC stuff is what really got me into seeing more Houdini, stuff like that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So back around those days, you were cutting tapes. You said there was an Us. So there's like a local scene brewing even at that point?
Yeah. So before that, I guess it was about 1979. Now, I wasn't around then. In Great Brook Valley, these guys were the DJ Charlie Chase, who's from the Cold Crush Brothers, which is one of the, if not the foundation group out of the Bronx, was traveling back and forth because he was dating somebody in Great Brook Valley. And these kids, shout out to my man Willie D and Glenny Glenn, these guys had an encounter with Charlie Chase, so they got to meet him and learn about the Cold Crush Brothers a little bit. And they just started imitating. So it was, my whole time coming up, there was this rumor that, there's the Cold Crush Brothers are in Great Brook Valley. And it wasn't that, it was that these guys used the name and make like a baby version of that group. And they started like that and imitated them, started performing out there at, block parties, after parties, the rec center. And then they started writing their own songs and it kind of grew from there. So that was all, before I even had a foot in the door there. But yeah, so there was somewhat of a scene growing at that time. Then there was something established already. And then at the same time, around 79, like the Worcester, you had the Wortown punk scene, which I don't know how much you guys know about that, but thriving right at that time. So it's kind of interesting that those things were happening separately from each other. And then you had WCUW, which had started in a dorm in Clark University and just had a new building on Main Street. So that all was happening at the same time, which was going to kind of set the foundation for the thing to happen. So
I think that's a super interesting way to look at it too, because WCUW, from my understanding, like shout out Brian Goslow, because I saw that you have Brian Goslow involved in this. I fucking love Brian Goslow. He's an awesome dude. He was the one that really turned me on to a lot of that early Wormtown stuff and kind of like Wormtown's not a beer kind of shit.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to me that WCUW is kind of this linchpin in the story, because that like public access radio providing like a place to hear music you're not going to hear on the pop stations. Like that's awesome, man. That's both punk rock and hip hop. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah, and there wasn't, I think maybe as we got into the 80s, it was a little different, where it was like when we really started performing in clubs and stuff, it was more like the whole scene shifted. The Wormtown thing had kind of existed, but everything was getting really metal and not kind of underground metal, more like hairband metal stuff.
Yeah.
And not knocking that, it's just a thing, and that's what the point was. But before that, I think there was, I think everybody kind of understood that we were kind of underground music, and we were able to use WCUW as our only outlet. There was a DJ named Spider who had a radio show that was kind of, I would just say, it was about I would say the Black music experience in general, and he started incorporating hip hop, and that's where most of us went to, other than going to New York or trying to get to New York radio stations to hear stuff. That's where we were able to hear hip hop around here. So that's the first outlet for that. Yeah.
This is going to sound like such a millennial statement, but can you imagine a world where all you had to do to hear music was to just get the radio? Like that's the only way you can hear new music. Like now I'm scouring the internet every fucking night trying to find a new band, just something different to listen to. Before you had to wait for these dudes to basically serve them to you on a platter. That's mind blowing.
Yeah, so we had this guy, we had one of my friends in the documentary, DJ Ram, he brought a lot of mixtapes, New York mixtapes to Worcester. And the way he did it was he would take a bus and sit in the Port Authority in New York and stay there and tape Mr. Magic, Molly Mall radio shows, and then take the bus back home.
Literally just sit in the Port Authority and record off the radio.
Yep. So
that's so sick.
No one is committed to music like that anymore, man.
You know, that's how much, how can I say, that's, you know, the desire was so much kind of pure and about the music and just wanting to be a part of that culture back then. Because I was into music, I wasn't like, I want to be part, I want to belong to a genre or something like that. It's like,
yeah,
this thing, and it's part of what you do. So.
It's a whole different thing to, like, if it's going to push you to go put yourself out of your comfort zone for 2 days to capture, like, that's a whole other level of appreciation and respect for music.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's great.
Yeah. So like 84, you start dancing. This is now bringing a whole new wave. Like, is there dudes in Worcester making music at this point? Like, seeing?
Yeah. There were the guys in the Valley. I think eventually they went by Shore Shocking Brothers, but they were the guys who were influenced by the Cold Crush. Then the Destination Crew was probably the biggest group out of Great Brook Valley. So shout out to those guys, Gary G, man Gordon, DJ Enforcer, God bless his soul. A few other guys, man Kemper, DJ Mike Diaz. So these guys were out there, and then you had the WEC Connection. They were more kind of downtown based, Plumley Village based.
Okay.
Kind of like a little rivalry. Those guys I was already hearing stories about them when I was coming up doing rap music. So I was rapping, you know, among my friends and stuff like that before I ever, you know, mixed it up with any of them.
That's cool. So where, in terms of like shows and stuff, I saw in one of the videos, there was a place called Uptown.
Yeah.
Was that like, first of all, I'm so fucking bummed that that's not still a thing, because that sounds like a place I would be every single day. But is that where you guys would play shows and all that?
It's hard to even describe what it was like, other than it was like whatever the Roxy was in New York, or the Fever or stuff like that. It was in the Galleria, so it wasn't when you guys were coming up. It was probably the common fashion outlets.
Yeah.
In the basement of that, there was a nightclub, and it was a big nightclub. It wasn't little. It was like you'd have to go through the parking lot and then go underground, and it had these real big doors you would go in, and there was like a big room to your right with a bar. Then the whole club was there, so it was like it was 3 dance floors, I think, like a main dance floor and 2 smaller ones, another bar in the back, and then video screens everywhere. Because when it started, it was just a VJ up there at first. They didn't have DJs in there. They were playing like recorded stuff, or videos would get sent to them by record companies, and they were playing there. So that's how it worked at first. And then the hip hop stuff started taking off, and they started bringing in the hip hop DJs. And we were kids, so we were like, you know, 14, 15 at first. It was like a nightclub, almost like an adult nightclub atmosphere, except, you know, everybody's in there just, you know, kind of going nuts. And it's weird how Worcester is, it's so divided. Like I saw in the chat room, people were talking about it, and they were like, oh, this was this cheesy 80s club or something like that. And they have no idea, because like Friday night, I think, was more like kind of club 80s night, and then Saturday night was completely different, you know. And we had people from all over New England coming through. We had Connecticut. We had some people from New York sometimes. We had New Hampshire, wherever. The place was packed all the time. So in the back, there was this whole other room with like a pool, almost like a pool hall, but we have b-boy battles in the back there. And then there was a DJ booth that was kind of up. There was like these stairs. There were seats, but they were kind of like bleachers, but with carpet on them. And the DJ was up in the window, and he would drop the mic, and we would all get up there and just go nuts and try to get the mic, and everyone, battles, stuff like that would happen. And then they had their own contests. And this guy, Ernie Floyd, I don't know if you heard of Ernie Floyd.
I know that name. I definitely heard that name.
He's kind of an activist in the community now. He's doing a lot. He has a Unity is his radio station. I think it's out of Assumption now. But they have some video blogs and stuff like that. But anyways, Ernie Floyd, he was the first DJ there, and he was a basketball player for Holy Cross College. So he was like a star basketball.
I know he is.
He was super popular. So then he was the DJ there, and we had just seen him on TV, doing whatever he was doing. So Ernie was really instrumental in getting a lot of the hip hop DJs in there, and just helping us to spread that music, because we needed someone who was an adult, because we couldn't make any moves on our own.
Yeah.
Yeah, Uptown was nuts. And I did speak with the owner, trying to get some of the footage from there. And it's really tough, because they used to have the video screens, and then once in a while you'd come in and they would have the contests that we were in, or different nights, playing back on the video.
Oh, that's cool.
He doesn't have that video. So there were a few slides and stuff like that I got from him, but most of that stuff doesn't exist.
It's tragic.
Yeah.
Places don't exist like that anymore.
No, and it started staying open till like 4 o'clock in the morning, because it didn't have to have a liquor license. So it was just crazy. It was crazy.
That's so sick. I never knew that was a place. I could never imagine one of those in Worcester. And then seeing the video and seeing a place like that, I was like, wait, hold on, this was real?
Yeah. Yep. I remember, I think it was New Year's Eve. I think it was 1984 turning to 1985. And I don't know where I was supposed to be, but I probably at a friend's house and I was at Uptown, and it's changing to midnight, and they played Roxanne's Revenge. So it's like the second record in the whole Roxanne Battles thing, and that place went nuts. And I just remember it was like an out-of-body experience, just going, what the hell is this? It was such an awesome moment, man. Yeah. But yeah, that's Uptown.
So what brought you into, all right, so what was so aside from growing up in hip hop, when did you decide to make a documentary about the Worcester hip hop scene?
So I think it was about 2007 or 8, something like that. I had seen a few things. There's some really good things on rock music in Worcester. There's an awesome timeline that's like a 40-year timeline. It was in a 40-year edition of WOMAD, but I think it was, I don't know how many years it was involved. Maybe it was 20 or 30 at that time. But Brian Gosler was involved with that. I think he helped archive that. And then LB Worm is the other guy. I think they might have done that together. I'm not positive with that, but it was cool. And I always I look at that stuff and go, well, I know we were the first people doing hip hop in Worcester. And before me, there were a few guys who were just like, the first people. And there's a Worcester jazz book that is about the first jazz musicians in Worcester, the jazz scene in Worcester. And I kind of liken what I'm doing to that stuff, even though it's a different format. Back then I was kind of aware that I knew it was a new art form, so I didn't know if it would be there in 3 or 4 years at that point. Yeah. But I didn't know that we were the only rap groups that were ever in Worcester. So that was in my head. So I did, always have that. But as I got further along, I started collecting some of the audio, some of my own stuff I started archiving. And then I would come across stuff that I had done for other people, and there was so much that I had. I contacted DJ Shane, which is, he's you know, just an amazing DJ and producer. And we kind of came up together, not doing music together, almost doing music separately, but within the same scene. And he's probably the only other person that I know that keeps as much stuff as I did or more. And he's probably more meticulous about certain stuff than I am. And he had a ton of stuff. So we kind of exchanged stuff, and he brought a bunch of flyers and I had some flyers, and I scanned them and digitized them, and you'll see them up on the internet. I think DJ Chuck Chillin shared a bunch of them a few years back, and we had shared them. And just started archiving, and I was doing a project with just the audio stuff. So I was doing, and it just kind of fizzled. It didn't go where it could have gone, and it was the video component that I think was what I was waiting for, was the missing piece. And a few people had, you know, suggested that I contact a few different people and try to do it, you know, within the community a few different ways, and it just didn't pan out. And so that stayed with me. You know, it was cool to share those files amongst the guys who knew that stuff, but then I felt like it needed to be something else. And another friend of mine, Domingo Guyton, I produced music for him early on, though that would probably be late 90s, early 2000s. He was working at the youth center, and they wanted to do something on hip hop, and he knew that I had that stuff. And they did a small documentary there, you know, and I liked it. It was a good gesture, but looking at it, it wasn't what I wanted it to be. What I saw it as, I knew there was so much more to it. So a few more years down the line, I'm like, this thing isn't going away. And you know, when something's kind of gnawing at you like that, it's like, this is something you have to do. So it's that kind of a deal. So I didn't even feel like I could move forward with what I'm doing, or with my own story, until I share this whole thing. So yeah, it's real important to me, and it's just, I think as far as hip hop too, it would be good for the current generation to just hear and see what it was like, not to imitate that stuff or try to repeat it, but just to see, you know, just the enthusiasm for the music and the art itself. So all that building up, you know, just was like, okay, I'm gonna jump in and do it. And then I was thinking I'll just roughly put these clips together, these ideas together, and then I'll bring it to somebody, or I'll do that. And then as soon as I got a few segments in, I'm like, I got this. So,
You got the bug, and you just started going nuts.
Yep, basically that.
You bring up LB and Brian, which is, I think, is a wonderful, wonderful pair, because you're right. The reason that we're able to know so much about Wormtown is because those two dudes documented the whole thing. Like LB has the old zines he was putting together at that time. And it's all these old, like your flyers, it's all these old black and white produced things that literally just spell out what the fuck was happening.
Yeah.
All that shit is important. And we didn't have the internet back then. So if we don't have somebody like yourself that's realizing how important this stuff is and actually documenting it, it is, like, that footage is going to get lost to the fucking time. And that sucks. As somebody, like, I'm a transplant to Worcester, man. I don't know much. I'm from Connecticut. I came up in the hardcore scene, which is in and of itself, but like, we stood on the shoulders of our ancestors in the hip hop scene and had our own kind of thing. Like, I want to know so much more about Wortown now. Like, I am so intrigued, and I am envious that I missed out on this time and this place and like some of these experiences. It just sounded so unique, and I don't know. You have me, these teasers you keep putting out are fantastic, because they have just enough in there that I'm like, oh, come on, give me more. Like, how close is it to being ready?
It'll be done. It'll be completed this year. And this is it's 5 years plus into this thing, and this is probably my 6th summer on lockdown. So, you know, not that I don't get out and do anything, but I mean, I got to stay in here and get this thing done. So it's a lot of editing and a lot of creating where footage and things don't exist. It's a lot, you know, going, okay, how do I
Yeah. Are you like just teaching yourself how to edit together a documentary as you go?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the way I did everything.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah, dude.
So my whole life, it's been like that. I'm a musician. I'm not a master of any of my instruments, but I'll pick up anything and play it to get what I want out of it. And that's the way I look at anything. It's like if it's there and I'm supposed to, do something with it, then I'm going to, do whatever I want. I'm going to turn it inside out and make it do something somebody else didn't do with it, because I don't want you guys to anybody to watch a film and go, oh, this is just a copy of this or a copy of that. And once you get that creative thing happening, it's like, takes on its own life. So, yeah.
So I saw
you're doing all the After Effects yourself? Like I was looking at like a lot of the sparkling in the photos and that Ken Burns effect you got going. Like all that shit's looking tight.
Yeah, I had been into Photoshop a lot. So, I mean, for years before that. So it helped because I'm working in Premiere Pro and the whole language translates pretty easily. So that helps a lot. YouTube and all that.
That's cool. So I saw Tila Rock what's the Tila Rock connection? So
Tila Rock, there was a guy who was Tila Rock's brother who lived in Worcester about, 1986 or so. And everybody kind of got to know this guy named June. And they were like, he's Tila Rock's brother. And everyone's, I would always hear this stuff. It's just the same as the Cold Crush Brothers thing. I'm like, well, it sounds like it might be true, but how rumors just grow.
Yeah.
So I was never really sure. And then there's this place called Club Hideaway, which is where the Hannover Theater is. And below where there's like that function room off to the side, or I don't know if it's a cafe now. Below there, you can go down a flight of steps, and it was this big room that used to be, first it was a roller skating place called Bob's. Then it became a club called the Underground. And they would let us do hip hop stuff there, but they also were doing like punk stuff, all kinds of stuff, rock and roll. And it's just like a big hall, a bar in the back, and a stage at the end. So it was perfect for music. And it became a place called Club Hideaway, and they booked Tila Rock to do a show. And so Tila Rock came, and his brother was there mixing it up with him on stage. So then you're like, oh, wow, he's really his brother. So it was kind of amazing also to see Tila Rock because, people knew him from the It's Yours record as the first debut.
Yeah.
But he had an album out at that time that Mantronic produced or co-produced with him. And it was amazing to me because I followed him from way back. So like the guys who were hardcore into hip hop knew who he was.
Yeah.
Professional fans kind of didn't get it too much. But I mean, if I was in the Def Jam stuff, even like LL Cool J kind of modeled his style after Tila Rock.
100%.
Ad Rock from the Beastie Boys was in there in the chants in the background in that record and programming Drum Machine with Rick Rubin on that. So,
Rick Rubin, yeah. I actually just listened to a podcast about that, like literally 2 weeks ago.
Wow. Yeah. So, anyways, I wrote Tila Rock, and I'm like, I just want to get him to say, yeah, I performed there, or it was lame, or anything, just to get him to say he was here, and just to get his perspective. And when I mentioned that we knew about his brother and stuff like that, he was interested. And also, Tila Rock had I don't know what you know about his story, but he had a traumatic accident. Like he got jumped in the 90s, and he had memory loss, and he woke up in
It was like it wasn't like a retirement home or something that he woke up in?
Yeah, and so it took a long time for him to get back to where he is. So I think that he's also, really concerned with, a documentary being made about his life, and he's, putting pieces together too, and things that, looking for photos and things like that. And he was good enough to allow me to interview him. So I went out with my man Blaze. We went out to New York, and my friend Jamie, he's a photographer. He had a studio out there, so we were able to just meet up at his place and interview Tila Rock. So we went and picked up Tila Rock in Washington Heights and drove to Brooklyn and interviewed him there. So
that's so crazy.
It was crazy. Yeah. And the stories that he told, and he gave me like an hour of interview that doesn't all have to do with Wortown at all, but it's just amazing stuff. So it was pretty cool.
That's for your next documentary.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple little segments that I put aside to just him talking about it. I mean, because the record, It's Yours at the end of the record, they're chanting boom bap, which is almost like now a genre of hip hop.
Seriously.
Yeah.
And then KRS-One had the album Return of the Boom Bap. That's where that phrase came from. So he coined the phrase. And I don't know if anyone had asked him about that before. And I'm like, what made you say that? So I got a little clip of, a minute or so of him talking about that. And, stories he told me were amazing.
What is boom bap just the drum? Is it like a vocal production of drums? Is that what he means?
That's what they're saying. That's what he said. He said he just felt like he didn't want to beatbox, and he wanted to say something to describe the record. So he just started along with the beat. And I think KRS-One flipped it into a whole different thing, and it just became, kind of the catchphrase for a genre, like the underground New York hip hop sound.
Yeah. That's so sick. That's so cool. You got to like hang out with him.
Yeah.
What a legend is like an understatement.
Yeah.
Basically created popular hip hop in a way.
One of the best voices, I think, in hip hop, that especially in lyricism, he was different from everyone else. He's more of a technician, where, it was kind of more party oriented back then until that kind of stuff started happening. So.
That's rad.
So from the people that were at the pop-up event, like you must have gotten a good response. Like
it was so cool. Yeah, it was really cool because there were a lot of younger people there that were really curious about stuff, that just came up to me after and really encouraging stuff. And even a few people that were around when that stuff was happening, that were like, I know this person or that person. I can't believe there's going to be a documentary about this and all that. So.
That's so cool.
So definitely 2020. How can we support you? How can people just finding out about it now help get this thing moving farther? Like, where do people find out more?
Well, I haven't been promoting too much because I don't like to, I'm the person who's about having the thing done before you start talking about it too much. I want people to know that it exists. So occasionally I'll share something that it's not going away, but I haven't even started like really a push to really promote stuff. So we have t-shirts that we're selling online. Everything, I mean, I've funded my own stuff, and that's mostly because, it's been helpful that it's taken so long, because I can just do that kind of incrementally. And but yeah, the t-shirts is the way to go right now. And my man Chuck Tillin, guys, shout out Chuck Tillin. He's like no one else with the t-shirts and the sweatshirts. It's just always out there representing us. And I got a shout out to my man Blaze, he was in the first group I was in called Chaos back in the 80s, and he's been a musical partner my whole life, and just has done the camera work on every interview, has been there side by side with me every interview, and then every segment, just technical stuff. He's helped me with all my plugins and all this different stuff that every time I get stuck, I've had that person there for me. So although I've done a ton myself, you know, I've had that support. So
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, I know like times are kind of crazy right now. Was there any talk of almost like a reunion show with like some of the throwback Worcester hip hop guys? You know, kind of throwing a show somewhere.
Well, the idea for this thing is to do a premiere at probably Showcase North. It was the most welcoming venue when I reached out to different venues just to test the waters. It's probably the easiest place to do it, to do a premiere and then do a big after party.
Cool.
So I'm trying,
Cool.
even if it's done later this year, I still want to try and hold out to see what happens with COVID and all this, so that we can, I mean, the idea of having everyone together and that's not just the old school guys, that's you know, primary to the whole thing. That's the essence of it. But to welcome in the community, the younger hip hop artists and everything, to just have fun with this thing together. If we can do that together, it's, you know, kind of not going to be the same. But I just see also the opportunity and maybe doing an online premiere when you do have that much more attention than you would have had. So
I don't know. Having it at Showcase North though, being a stone's throw away from Great Brook Valley, like that would be fucking cool. And like learning about the history and being right there and going out to, like, oh man, I would love to be there for something like that. That sounds like an awesome thing not to miss.
yeah. Well, I was thinking of a venue maybe that I could do do it all in one, do an after party, and that's kind of tough because you can't really do that there. But you know, it's.
Have you reached out to like the guys over at the Palladium or anything?
I did try the Palladium. I didn't hear back from anybody, but I don't know what they have for video capabilities too. If that's something I would have to provide. Like I was in a show a while back when we showed video and stuff, and you got to get your own screen and all that. So that was way back. It's been a long time since I performed there. But yeah, it's something I would look into again. And some places are really expensive. So yeah, I'm not sure where it's gonna end up happening, but again, I'm
Break
trying.
into the Hanover basement and we'll go find out that venue is still down there.
Yeah, it would be nice. I mean, it's so Worcester oriented that it would be nice to get a place like I mean, the Hanover would be nuts. It would be insane.
Who knows? They may not even still be there after COVID. It sounds like.
True.
Yeah, true.
Maybe we'll project it on the wall.
So, I mean, so again, I'm with Powwow, so I've seen what projectors can do. We could totally make that happen.
So you know Che.
I do know Che.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
He's been helpful, too.
He's been helping?
Yeah, just if I have questions about different murals and stuff like that. I mean, I started talking to him right when I was starting, and he was just starting getting murals up. So I was watching because I wanted to shoot in front of the murals, and I've been able to get quite a few of them in there. So that's pretty cool.
That's awesome.
It's so if I didn't know about the Great Brook Valley riots, I still don't really know about them. I've heard of them, but up until last year, I didn't even know Great Brook Valley existed. And then I spent my entire summer last summer out in Great Brook Valley because of Powwow and because like I was meeting a bunch of the community out there and like learning about that area. So like, I really got to go back and learn my history, truthfully. But seeing a place like that and seeing the people care enough to bring it up from where it was to where it is, like that to me is also hip hop. And like, that's the cool thing about, I don't know, watching history alongside something like your documentary, where you can see both the culture and the actual physical representation of the improvements. And that's like, I don't know, that's super cool.
Yeah, I don't want to give away too much of what that segment is like, but at the same time, I'll say it's important to kind of the jump off of hip hop. When you look at the social climate in the United States at that time, there were riots and uprisings all over the country at that time. There were a lot of similar things going on. I mean, New York City, you have the blackout, and hip hop pretty much would. Who knows if it would exist the same way it did if that didn't happen. But and you had what was happening in the Bronx, which was a mini war zone. That was reflected throughout the United States, and Worcester wasn't really different. They had problems with violence and social injustice, just like any place else. So it was a real thing. What happened in the Valley, though, I will say, was not WPD. It was Housing Authority Police, and there was the issue where somebody got killed by a housing police authority officer, and then the riot kind of ensued from there. So I didn't want to just skim the surface of that, so it does explain what happened there, and I did get to speak with a guy named George Cortez, who's a personal friend, and he was the only reporter who could go in to the Valley during the riots, because the Valley was barricaded, and they had to send National Guard in there. They had to send the Housing Authority Police had to leave. But yeah, he had some, not archival footage of the riots itself, but he had some interesting Worcester footage and related stuff. And he was a news reporter for TV 27, which was our local station at the time. So I got his firsthand account of it. So I don't think that you can get much better than that, the guy who was in there. So
Yeah.
And I knew him, and I was talking to somebody about this, and they suggested to me, why don't I contact him? And I'm like, oh no, that's my friend's uncle. You know what I mean? So we connected that way, and he was good to come through my house and share his archives with me, which is stuff that he has, Worcester Historical Society or Worcester Historical Museum has, and I have, and that's it. So
That's so sick.
and some of the incidental stuff on there, like it's just like you could get lost going into the footage that he gave me. It's like stuff of the war in Nicaragua, or commercials from local stores in Worcester from the 70s. So it's like,
Wow.
yeah, it's fun.
It's amazing.
Dude, I am so intrigued. I so want to see all that shit.
So I want to ask you guys now. I'm getting this just from watching the show that the times I watched.
Yeah, man.
Ricky, you taught yourself to play the piano, or do you play piano?
No, my brother taught himself to play the piano.
My brother taught himself to play the piano. Are you a musician at all?
Not really. Growing up, I was obsessed with hockey and music, and was never really very good at either one of them. But they're, like, to this day, the two things that I care about the most ever. So.
Are you from Worcester originally?
I grew up in West Boylston, so, like, right outside of Worcester.
And what about you, Travis? I know you said you were in a band.
So yeah, back in a past life, I was a singer in a hardcore band. Our singer's a bad word. I was a front man of a hardcore band. And then since then, I'll jam on drums here and there. I jam on an acoustic guitar. I say a He-Man monkey strum because I don't really play anything too well. It's just more of an outlet and just like something to screw around with.
Cool. But you don't.
Nothing current. Hardcore life is like, I dropped out somewhere in college because there's no money in hardcore music. And at the time we were touring, but like it sucked going all over, basically eating as much pizza as you could fucking eat, because that's anything that anybody wants to feed you, and then playing for gas money, and then figuring out how the fuck, I don't want to get stranded in Tennessee. I don't want to get stranded in Maine. Like, so it was fun. It was a really fun experience. I wouldn't trade it for the world, but God, is that stressful. I'd rather be an entrepreneur and figure out where my dinner's coming from, at least be in my house.
Cool. And now you have a company doing media stuff?
Yeah, so I'm a freelance graphic designer. That's my day job. I quit that. Had another job and I quit 3 years ago. I went full-time freelance. So I do that, logos, branding, marketing materials. I do Seltzer Time with Ricky. I'm involved with Powwow. I'm involved with some other shit. And then, I got some designs over at Worcester Wares that I'm trying to get up and going.
Nice. maybe we'll catch up sometime after this and work on promotion.
Dude, anything I can do to help you. I'm 100% serious that I cannot wait to see this documentary. I've been following you on YouTube for like 3 years now because I was doing all this research on Worcester, and your original thing came up. Obscure Prophet's original thing came up, and that's where I found it 3 years ago. And then when
I'm gonna ask you, where did you hear about this thing from?
yeah, so I found it on YouTube, and then Ricky and I started this show about 1.5 years, almost 2 years ago now, and Wortown Rising was on my original list of people I wanted to talk to because I was just as curious about it then as I am now. If anything, I'm more curious because now I know a little more, and now I want to know.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There's going to be a lot there, and hopefully it's going to time out at around between 1.5 hours to 1.45 hours. You know, so I'm hoping for 1.5 hours, but whatever's going to make it complete. So that's about
Just
it.
to button this thing up, how do people find you on the internet? Like, is it just on Facebook? Is that the best place to find updates?
Facebook, just Wortown Rising. Search it, and you find the page, and you can look. I'm adding photos and info as I go, and there's a lot of stuff up there to look at now. But just anything. That's the base right now.
Perfect. It's a place to start. People have some catching up to do. So
Thanks for having me on, guys. It was cool.
thank you very much. This has been great.
Yeah, thank you so much.
When the thing is coming back, maybe I'll visit you guys again if that's okay. I got
Yeah, let's do it.
start doing some when it's promotion time. I'll start doing stuff, and I'd like to bring the guys with me. You know,
Yeah.
maybe talk a little bit about myself, and then just let everybody else talk.
That sounds incredible. Hopefully
Yeah,
by that
we're-
we'll be in the same room.
Cool.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're 100% down. Sounds great.
Cool.
Sweet.
We will talk soon.
So again, huge shout out to Kaz. Thank you so much for coming on, giving us, a look back at not only hip hop history, but Worcester history and how those two are super, super intertwined, which I never knew. Not that I've ever claimed to know everything about Worcester, but in the last year-ish, I have learned that Worcester has been a part of way more things than I thought. But I didn't know anything about Worcester's hip hop and history didn't ever come off as a thing that I thought existed.
Yeah.
Little did I know.
Same. And like I'll be honest, when I first saw that video, I'm like, who the hell are these guys kidding? Like, I've never heard of this. They clearly don't know what nope, I was wrong. They clearly know what they're talking about. And holy hell do I want to know more, because like I said in the interview, everything I keep seeing from these dudes like just gets me more interested, more excited for what they're going to release.
Yeah, I couldn't be any more excited. It's so cool hearing about, some of the clubs and stuff that not only aren't even close to existing anymore, but I've never even heard of.
Seriously?
Like, usually you'll hear something along the lines where it's like, oh, dude, there was this really cool hip hop club. Like, nope, never heard of it. Didn't know it happened. My mind, it was completely blown.
Like, I'm genuine when I want to try to break in there and see if that place still exists, because like it sounds like a sight to behold underneath the Hanover or underneath the old Galleria.
Yeah, it must be so sick.
Oh man, just to see if like a there's still video screens on the wall or like a stage that's in like a tattered shape. That would be awesome.
Imagine that. There's just this like ghost town hip hop club like under the whatever even is down. The Mercantile?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Mercantile.
Ghost Town. That would be the name if we ever opened up a hip hop club or a underground. That's
Play.
Copyright Seltzer Time, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else we want to share about Kaz?
I just can't wait.
Same.
I mean, the minute we get done, I'm probably gonna go listen to like some Tila Rock since we were talking about it.
Did that come up in your Beastie Boys documentary that or the biography?
No, well, possibly. I was listening to, so there's a podcast called Broken Record, which it's Rick Rubin's podcast, but like he's not always on it. I don't really understand their format, but it's him and this other guy, and one of them usually hosts the interview portion of it. So they always interview the coolest people ever. So I like listen to almost every single episode. But the last one I listened to was it was Questlove interviewing Rick Rubin. And I'm pretty sure it originally aired on Questlove's show, like Quest Supreme. And then they just reposted it on their channel, which was great because I didn't know about it. And so Rick Rubin produced that Tila Rock song, It's Yours. And they talked about that on that episode. And there was like Questlove was hit up by a reporter from like Vogue or it was like some magazine that you wouldn't expect to be doing this kind of story. But the woman reporter was doing a story about Tila Rock. So Quest was like really confused because this, like, that magazine doesn't cover this type of stuff. It might not have been Vogue. I might be completely wrong, but it was a magazine like that. So he gave a real quick, short answer of how he influenced him and influenced hip hop and all that. And I knew that was the first record put out by Def Jam, but I didn't know about how Tila Rock was like mugged or whatever and woke up in like a retirement home, and he lived there for like a period of time not knowing who he was. He legitimately thought that he was just there, and like these people, the older people, had no fucking clue who he was, so they thought he was just like the young guy that lived there, and he would like hang out with them all the time. And this woman found out about it and decided to write a story about it. It was like, I'm actually really glad that we talked about that today because I want to like find out more about it, try to see if the article ever came out. I actually don't even know, but somebody, I think Questlove, it was either Questlove or Rick Rubin were the one that was interviewed, and they brought it up on the podcast, and the other person had no idea. I think Questlove was the one that was interviewed, so Rick Rubin, who produced this song and like is hip hop, he had no clue that had happened to him.
That's crazy.
It was unbelievably interesting. So it's cool that tying it all together, like there's Tila Rock like coming into this like Worcester story. Like I don't know, it was just it's pretty dope.
That just it legitimizes it. It just makes it all the more reason why it's important to both our history of our culture as well as the history of our city.
Yeah, so sick. Plus, shout out the post office on June Street because I was there last week mailing back my shorts for Vans that don't fit.
All right, before we go to Stokes and Pokes, show off them new Chubbies.
Oh, hey, yeah. So shout out Chubbies. I got some shorts that look like they look kind of strange, but they're wildly comfortable. I was trying to explain them to my dad yesterday, and I was like, "Yeah, I got a bathing suit, and I got all this stuff from this company called Chubbies," and he's like, "Oh, okay, I've never heard of it." Like, thought it was kind of funny, and I was like, "Yeah, I got these lounge shorts that are the only way I can explain them is they look like, remember that gum when you were a little kid that had the zebra
stripe?
Yeah, this is
That's like exactly what I thought of.
Yeah, it's the same thing. And my dad was like, "Oh yeah, I know what that is." So I got gum shorts on.
Shout out fruit stripe shorts.
Yeah, that's it.
Take it away, Solo.
And it makes me wonder, what's the line between Stokes and Pokes? Stokes and Pokes.
So
And something went down the wrong pipe.
Oh God, you're choking up again this episode?
This is why I don't drink seltzer when we record.
Smart man.
Oh.
You know what else people should not do, Ricky?
What?
We should not vote for Kanye West for president because that's what I'm poking this week. Guys, we don't need another bipolar megalomaniac sitting in the most powerful position in the country. His name won't appear on some ballots due to him missing the deadline, but he's mostly or more unhinged than our current leader. Some things to remember, just to remind you all that are on the hype train. Remember the T Swift incident? Or when he told Forbes magazine that Planned Parenthood does the devil's work? How about George Bush doesn't care about black people?
That was true.
400 years of enslavement sounded like a choice. And then there was over the weekend, how about when he said Harriet Tubman never actually freed the slaves?
Crazy person.
Yeah, which is sad because I wish his candidacy was so irrational that it wasn't a concern, but I felt that way 4 years ago, and here we are. So to put it succinctly, don't vote for Kanye, please.
Yeah, please don't do that. I'm not the biggest Kanye fan. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm a first 2 Kanye records I'm all about, and then I like, not that I fully lose interest, but I don't have a whole lot of interest in Kanye West after that. It just, some of those songs that came out after are awesome. None of those records to me are awesome after that, and I know that I'm like wrong in that.
What's the album that he did with like Monster on it? That was like the last crazy good album that I loved.
Yeah, like, well, that's it. Like, I liked like some of those songs, but I just didn't. I don't know. He just kind of lost me. I love the Watch the Throne. Like, that record was incredible, and I wish that they
Jay-Z. Oh my God,
they did that, but that.
So that's exactly it. I am a fan of Kanye. I for years I wouldn't say it out loud because he was a lunatic, or he is a lunatic, but I'll admit it. I love Kanye's music. He takes an approach to music unlike any other modern day MC or producer, and like you break apart his rhymes, and there's actually like good shit in there. Like, he has very interesting takes, and like, yeah, you were thrusted into a very prominent role. You kind of wanted that to happen, but you were there, and all that shit is super interesting. I will continue to support him as a content creator because that's where I think he has value to our society, is his musical take and his creations. I don't believe he has a policy to fix anything. I think he's wrapped up in messaging. He's admittedly bipolar, and he goes on manic episodes, and that's usually when he does shit like this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I was also reading like 2 days ago that he wasn't running for president anymore, and then all of a sudden he held like a weird basement rally. I think it was last night, and it's just like, I don't know. First of all, the Gap must feel wicked awkward because they just signed a 10-year deal with him like 2 weeks ago. That's a nightmare scenario. On top of that, like, it would be kind of cool if we could go a little while without like a celebrity president. It's not a good idea. Even if the celebrity's a good celebrity, like, people are like, what about The Rock? I'm like, yo, I love The Rock. Like, who doesn't? My grandma loves The Rock. Like, The Rock rules. But I don't necessarily think it's a good idea for The Rock to be president right now. Like, if The Rock was to step back from the spotlight as an entertainer and then, you know, hold some kind of office where like you're getting fucking any kind of experience in politics, and like, if you were to show that you can think and speak logically and you're not a gigantic piece of garbage, then maybe I would be okay with voting for The Rock as the president. But just because you're a nice guy doesn't mean you're gonna be a good president. And like, I had a conversation with a friend like back when the whole Kanye thing first started, who was all about voting for Kanye West, which was mind-blowing because she's made a lot of really good points for a lot of things that are going on right now. And then she was like trying to convince me that this was a smart thing to do. And I was like, no, it's not. And she's like, well, he doesn't have or as creepy as a past as Biden and Trump. And I was like, okay, like, so that's all, like, I get that. And I'm not saying that those things are okay. But then she said that he's done more for the Black community than either of them. I was like, yes, and that's awesome, and he should. And that's great that he has put himself in that position, and he has used his power and wealth and all of that, some of it, for good. That's an amazing thing that nobody can take away from him. Like, he is a major reason why Chicago has any hope recently. But like, that still doesn't make you qualified to be president. Like, it's not just because you do one thing that's good doesn't mean you should be the president. We currently have a president who doesn't do anything good. When he was running, everybody was like, he's a businessman. He's a businessman. And it's like, no, he had a TV show. If you look at his actual businesses, every single one of them has failed. He was born with that name. He was born with that money, and that's it. He hasn't done anything. And Kanye built himself, which, like, that's awesome. To his credit, he fucking did it himself, and that's amazing. But, like, he's a sick person. He has a lot of issues, and he surrounded himself with the greatest marketing machine ever, but they're enablers. They don't actually care about your well-being. It's what's going to get the TV show going, and what's going to do this, and what's going to get the Kardashians in the fucking White House. Like, I respect their hustle, and like I said, they're the greatest marketing machine that this planet has ever seen. But you don't need to be in the White House. Like, we need a little bit of, like, I don't know, an actual politician in there would be nice. I don't even fucking, not that I don't care who it is, because there's a lot of really bad, it was mostly bad ones, but.
No, I'm with you.
We don't need another, like, reality show going on. Please, 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 please do not vote for Kanye West.
So I am stoked. During our break, we skipped the episode back around 4th of July. I actually had a reunion with a bunch of the kids I went to college with. It was a video reunion over Zoom that my buddy Jeremy Ford, or better known as J-Fo for Show, he put together, just like, we got 10 of our friends from college. We were all in design program together. So it was cool just to catch up with a bunch of people that I really haven't talked to in over 10 years. Some people are still in New York City. Some people moved out to Colorado. Some people are down working for WWE and their stuff. Yeah. So it was pretty interesting. Just kind of checking in with everybody. Some people have kids. Some people chose careers. And there's me. And then, yeah, it was fun. It was really, I mean, it was cool. Like, I went to Central Connecticut State, and I lucked into an amazing graphic design program. And at that program, this woman, Susan Vale, set it up where we had a design studio where we really weren't allowed to work on stuff ourselves, even though I had the programs because I had hacked them. I had to go to the design studio. Well, what that did was it put a group of people that wouldn't really normally hang out all in the same room together and then have to be creative together. And we would critique each other during our sessions. So, like, we were very familiar with what each other were working on as we were all trying to accomplish the same project. And all that, it really worked for our year, where it put together this really interesting group of 10 people that are all very ranged in backgrounds and disciplines, and gave us a reason to be friends. Oh, I'm good. Software. It's all good. So it was really cool to check in. One nice thing about the pandemic has been that it gives a reason to do these kind of things. So
cool.
That's what I got.
Oh. I thought you were gonna say something else. My bad. Cool. All right. Sick. So on my stoke is baseball comes back this week. I'm really excited. I've missed sports a lot. Not enough to, like, go to a game, but I've missed them a lot. I'm really excited. Baseball is intriguing to me because I do not expect them to finish the season because they've done nothing correctly. They had a decent amount of time to get their shit together, and they just continued to drop the ball and fight over money. For some reason, they're going to travel, which I don't understand why they're doing that. It's very stupid, but whatever. So that's the main reason why I don't expect them to finish. Also, the state of Florida ruins everything, along with Texas, but, like,
Arizona.
I don't know. Arizona. Like, it's a nightmare. So I don't have any. I would be shocked if baseball could finish. Football is worse because they have to start in the fall. They've had, like, almost a full year to figure this out, and they haven't been able to figure out how they're going to do it safely. So I don't have a whole lot of faith in them starting on time. Basketball and hockey, though, my dudes, they're starting next week. I want to say, yeah, I think both of those leagues start the 30th and 31st or something like that. I know the Bruins start, like, 3rd of August, but yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to see the the flaming train wreck that is the baseball season.
Looking at all those sports, hockey's the one that makes the most sense to me. Like baseball, you stay pretty socially distant, but hockey, you literally, well, they don't wear a helmet anymore, but if they make all the guys wear full face shields.
Yeah, I mean, that could have worked, but I mean, hockey's running into issues right now because they're all coming into camp, and you've got a couple guys on each team that are clearly testing positive, and they're being held out. That's going to happen. Like, there's no denying that. But once they self-quarantine for 2 weeks, then they're allowed to go to practice. Once you're in this bubble and at the hotel and you're only seeing the same handful of people, you know what I mean? As long as everybody acts like an adult about this, they'll be totally fine. Same with basketball. They're in one place. They're all together. You should not be coming in contact with anybody who's not an NBA employee. And I think they'll be fine too. Like they're not traveling. You're in the same spot. Even though you're in the disaster that is Florida, you're not leaving the buildings, like, which is good. Yeah, I have no hope for baseball or for football. Football's such a disaster. Like they're a disaster with everything. There's not many things that they do right, and this is just like very on brand for the NFL. But whatever.
Hey, the Redskins are changing their name though.
Oh, they're supposed to. We'll see. Again, the NFL, no hope. So that's my stoke. I'm excited for sports to come back. My poke. I'm really bummed that quarantine is like kind of coming to a close for me. Naomi is back at work now. She's back in the office. It's a super bummer. I was a really big fan of the whole like never leaving my apartment. And now that that's over, I'm like kind of bummed about it. So my poke is having to go back to normal, even though I fully intend to be back under quarantine in a couple months because I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. But it just sucks that it's over for right now.
I mean, you can keep quarantining by yourself. Nobody has to tell you how to live your life. But I'm ready to break. Like again, we went out to the Cape, so I was ready to break, but only because we were healthy. But then again, This weekend, Sarah was feeling not very nice. So we're kind of on another quarantine of our own kind of self-imposed right now because this shit's serious and we don't want to get anybody sick.
No, it's very serious. I mean, and like, that's what I mean when I say that, like, I was like excited about quarantine. Like,
yeah.
It's easy to be excited when you're not sick or like your family isn't sick. Like not that I'm not taking it seriously. And I would obviously rather just be back at work and have nobody dying, but
agreed.
That's not real life right now. So it sucks. But yeah, I don't know. Just kind of bummed that like our little 3-month hangout is over.
You like
for a couple hours a day. She'll be home at like 30, but still.
No, I mean you did. Oh goodness, you did tell me that you've been enjoying your morning walks and starting your day with her. And
yeah, it's the best. So whatever. What are you gonna do? Maybe we'll just have to quarantine all winter. Thanks to the government.
Sounded so much fun the first time.
Right? Kanye will fix it.
In Kanye we trust. All right, cool kids. Well, you did.
Oh my God, you know what I do have? I think it's packed up already, but I actually bought this like 4 fucking years ago. I bought a pin, like an enamel pin of Kanye, and what does it say? I think it just says Yeezy, but it's the same like red and blue like Obama print that Shepard Fairey did. It's that, but it's Kanye's face like with sunglasses and says Yeezy on the bottom. It's so sick. I'll have to find it. I definitely am not endorsing Kanye West. No fucking way.
Sure sounds like
it was so cool. Oh yeah, I'll have to find that. There was a Questlove, real quick before we close. I saw the Roots a couple times at the Palladium, and the first time I saw them there was a shirt that I almost daily regret not buying, and I've looked for it online and I can't find it at all. But it was Questlove's face in that same print style, and instead of saying hope, it just said dope. But it was like Quest, like with the fro and everything. It was awesome. That's it. That's all I have right now.
That sounds like an incredible shirt. I am getting harassed by a small black dog. So I have been Travis. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Hunchback Travis.
I've been Ricky. You can find me everywhere as well as DickChuck77 or Seltzer Time Official.
Guys, the shirts have been restocked, so we have a couple of those up there. They're going.
Some sides are already sold out. Just heads up.
We love you guys. You're buying us out faster than we can keep them in there, and that's awesome. That's super, super awesome. But we will get better at this.
Yeah. But until then, peace.